what I find it interesting about that when I'm trying to picture like a boxer with a pointier nose and stuff like that, that just looks like a Vizsla or like a Weimaraner. If you think about it, like if you have except with the exception of the pointy ears, if it
Yeah,
had
I
like a
don't think
longer
it's
snoot.
quite. Well, it's longer than it is now, but it's not long.
Oh, okay. So like
Yeah.
it's just a bit more now. It's like again like smushed in. Like, I wonder if they talk like this. I wonder. Woof, 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 woof.
Hello, and welcome to Let's Boop Snoots.
Hi, my name's Heidi.
And my name is Vero. And today we're going to talk about the evolution of some of the breeds and the health problems that evolution has brought. And Heidi's going to talk about manners.
Yes.
Where are your manners?
Where the manners at for some an owner manners, not dog, not even dog man. Well, we could talk about dog manners too, but
But owner
yes.
manners.
Hmm.
Owner manners. And then if we have time, I'm going to talk about the oldest dog in the world.
I'm curious about that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch that interview, so I'm curious to hear
Yeah.
what that's all about.
Mm-hmm.
So, Vera, you found like a very cool like video. It's there's a lot of videos out there, and it's funny because even tonight at the dinner table, we were discussing a video that somebody else watched about separation anxiety and stuff like that. So, I think it's fun to boop snoots about these videos and
Mm-hmm.
see what our snoots think.
So this video identified some breeds that in the past, they didn't look quite like what they look like now. So first they talked about the pug.
Hmm.
So the pug before, the face wasn't as flat and the tail didn't have like that pigtail. So over the
Curly Q.
years, little curlies, tail curlies. Over the years, the pug was bred for the flat face and the curly tail. However, that brought on some health problems. And we kind of talked about some of this when we talked about bringing your pet on a flight. How a lot of like the pushed in face dogs had issues with breathing. So yeah, the pushed in face, there's a lot of breathing difficulties with that and overheating because they can't exhale as
Hmm.
much
Hmm.
and intake enough oxygen. And it brings also some dental problems. The curly tail is actually a genetic defect that results from spine deformity. But this is what they were bred for, to get that curly tail. Ugh.
Over like they were trying to get the curly tail on the pug.
Yeah. Yeah.
See,
But the
like I
pugs with the curliest tails often had like spine deformities.
yes, I heard that. My question is to the people who made this video because I didn't watch it right through to the end. But is this due to bad breeding or is it that people are looking for these like specific things? Because when we did an episode on breeders and just talked about some of the things to look out for. And now since doing like more of our confirmation shows and talking
Mm-hmm.
about like the breed standards and stuff like that, it seems like something that's super ridiculous. But if you're a breeder that's literally just trying it out for fun and you don't know what you're doing and you don't know what breed standards to look for when you're breeding, because you choose from what you have or they purchase dogs from different areas. So um, if you're just breeding for the fun of it and not really knowing what you're doing, you could be choosing the wrong dogs with wrong traits that eventually ends up in bad breeding,
Yeah.
right? Like you want to breed out like some of the faults like in these dogs. So I'm wondering why were they like I'm curious to know why they were after the curly tail, because
Because
they
it
want to
looks cute, probably.
because they want it to simulate like having a little pet pig.
And
Oh,
that's actually what they sound like.
pug, it's totally what they sound like. So maybe it's like
Yeah.
to mimic having a baby pig, and that's why it's also called pug.
Bug.
Pug. ugly
I'd be
pig.
curious to see what the pug at a dog show looks like.
Yes.
Does it have the flattest face and the curliest tail?
Probably
And what the
not.
standard
Not
is for
according
pugs.
to this, and I wonder if they went to these specific breeds to look at what the standard is for the breed and just show some of like the more like modern day version of that dog where you can see that it took a wrong turn somewhere, especially with
Mm-hmm.
and as you continue, because keep going to the next dogs, because like with one of them it's like very clear, it's very interesting to watch this video.
Yeah,
'Cause
especially when they show a picture of what they
yes,
used to look like. It's like, oh,
yes, yeah.
there was one, I don't know if it's the same one, but one that stood out. I was like, that's what that dog was bred for.
uh, well, I don't know, maybe let's keep going, keep going, keep going.
Okay, the next one, the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel.
Mm-hmm.
So it was bred for a prettier head,
Mm-hmm.
which resulted in a too small head, um, too
Like
small
skull.
of a skull.
Mm-hmm.
So now the brain is squished and it's pushing on the spinal cord and all of that. And it causes pain and some facial nerve paralysis.
And I'm very curious about, because one of our neighbors has one, and his name is too low because he's too low to the ground. And he's very cute. He is. They're very very cute dogs, but they are tiny and they do have these tiny little heads. So I wonder,
Yeah.
and I wonder if that's something that they tell you about, like again when you go to purchase like these dogs, because these are expensive dogs.
Yes.
The small ones are the
But
most
are they
pricey.
like, now you kind of wonder, like, are they always in pain?
Well, that too. Well, again, like, so you get to know your dog and look for those signs. So yeah, you do wonder. And I wonder what if some of the facial things that happen, or anyways, I'll be curious to ask. I might ask my
Yeah.
neighbor.
Yeah.
I may
Or
ask
ask a
Tulo.
vet, like,
Tulo, Tulo,
too
what's your
low? How's your
problems?
face? How's your face?
How your face, Tulo?
The Bull Terrier. So this is like, oh, who's the Don
Spuds.
Cherry's dog?
Yes, Spuds
Don
McKenzie.
Blue. Is it Blue?
It was blue, but I think there was another one way back in the day. But this is the one that I was thinking of.
Okay. So in the past, they had a slim torso and a well proportioned head. They were athletic dogs. Now they have an egg-shaped head and a thick body.
This one I found the most surprising, because like when I think of this like what it's supposed to look like was drastically different from like how they are now,
Yes.
because their faces are weird. It's like the weirdest part on their body. And I think
Yeah.
what makes them stand out or makes them look different or draws people to that different
And
sort of
their
like,
eyes are very close together,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Or yeah. Um, so they have some dental problems because they have too many teeth, mental deficiencies like compulsively chasing their tails, and skin issues like rashes and just bigger reactions to insect bites. So I don't know if that has to do with like over time,
Well, exactly.
the skin issues, but
Hmm. I was kind of curious because like when you see when it has things to do with like skull shape, you can see how that can affect like the nervous system, and that those
mhm,
problems make sense. But I mean, if when you talk about skin and rash issues, that can equally just as be where the dog food industry has gone too, which
yeah,
which we've talked about at extent.
mhm,
But
yeah,
those are definitely weird, strange looking dogs.
they are like stocky.
I wonder if it's like the weird shapes that draws people to these dogs. You know what I mean?
They're
Like
unique.
I don't understand the pug. I don't get it.
Yeah, me neither.
Maybe
But
that's my small dog bias coming out, but
some
I
people
don't
like
get
them.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Like the pushed in face.
And when you know that it causes these health issues, like you would think that that would be a deterrent from like buying the specific breed, because people
Hmm.
like to have a healthy dog and not be handing over their checks to the vet.
Yeah.
To the vet.
I don't know. People like looks, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe it's like one of those things where it's like, they're so ugly, they're cute. Like that's like there's a few dog
Maybe.
breeds like that. I don't know. Well, the pug is definitely one of them.
There's
Okay,
humans like that too.
I feel like this is turning into like a let's hate on pugs episode. I've never actually known anybody with one. I've seen them around the neighborhood and stuff like that, and I know there's like a huge pug following, but yeah.
Yeah, I know there's like other animals that you're like, that animal is so ugly, it's cute.
Well, like cats are the same way, right? Like hairless cats. People think they're just like absolutely
Ugh.
hideous. I wanted to get one at one point. And Gibbs is like the closest thing to a hairless cat because he's got such a short fur and his underbelly's so soft. It's pretty much like a hairless cat. So I got a 2-for-1.
I had a neighbor, like an older lady was my neighbor, and she had a hairless cat.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Remy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go over and have like tea with her because she was old and nobody visited.
Mm-hmm.
And her cat jumped on me, like on my lap once, and I was like, "Ooh, they're actually really soft. The skin is soft."
This is a Harry Potter reference for everyone out there, but I wanted to get one and call him he who
Yes.
should not be named. And when they said Voldemort, I go, ugh, and shiver.
I called it Voldemort.
Did you? Remy?
Yeah,
You called Remy
yeah,
Voldemort?
she would let Remy out on a leash, like tie him up in the yard. I was like, "Oh, Voldemort's out."
The kitty that shall not be named. That's hilarious. Ugh. I like them. I think they're cute. But then I heard like weird things about them, like that they emit like an oil. So and if you don't bathe them regularly, they leave oil stains on your furniture. So I was like, yeah, and no, thank you.
No thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, next one.
Mm-hmm.
I always pronounce this incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
Dachshund.
Yeah, Dachshund. A Dachshund
Dachshund.
or Wiener dog.
Dachshund always had short legs and an elongated body, but was more proportionate in the past. Now the back is stretched out and the legs are shorter. It causes disc disease, spinal damage, and sometimes paralysis.
I have to say, so my sister does have a Dachshund. I've talked
Yeah.
about him before, Pogo, and their paws look so weird. They're also splayed out like to the side.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's like part of their breed standard or the way that but like again in this video when it shows like what they were like when they were the way they were originally bred and then like where they've come, it is crazy. It is pretty
because
crazy.
they are taller.
But yeah, my sister knows that about Pogo, and so whenever he jumps anywhere, she's like, "Oh, careful! Don't let him jump! Don't let him jump! Don't!" Because she's worried he's gonna like land a certain way and like hurt his spine. So, which happened to actually another family member of ours. A dog jumped down from a windowsill and out went the spine. Yeah, that's got to be scary. So, be careful with your Dachshunds, everybody.
New.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. English Bulldog.
Mm-hmm.
So these were used for bull baiting in the past. Now they used to be like a little bit taller, a little bit slimmer. Now they're shorter and stockier. They can't mate naturally, and they cannot give birth naturally.
I saw that and I was like, what?
Yeah. And I think the French Bulldog is similar.
Oh, really?
Not to the same extent, but yeah, I think they often need cesarean section. And again, the pushed-in face, they overheat, and it causes breathing problems.
It explains why they're so expensive too, because if it's not like if breeding isn't happening in a natural like sort of way, and you need to go the more mechanical or medicinal like route towards it, I'm sure that's costly, right? And it explains why some of these dogs are like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000.
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
Yes.
But that's like I can't imagine signing on for breeding like the process of that either. Like it's one thing to get like 2 dogs and be like, play some music, give them a little plate of spaghetti, Lady and the Tramp.
Cute.
But no, to like, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's just crazy. What
Our
shout out to all the English bulldog breeders out there and French bulldog
way to
breeders.
go. Good
Way to
on you.
way to go, guys.
Our next one is the boxer.
Mhm.
Had pointy ears and a longer snoot. Now they have floppy ears and a flatter nose. Again, breathing problems. They're a larger breed, but with their flat face, their intake of oxygen is decreased, so they can't exercise as much as they would need to.
Mhm.
And then they have more flesh in their mouth because of the pushed in nose, like it creates folds and there's more flesh in the mouth, and their panting is not as efficient. And it's probably the
Weird.
same for pugs and English bulldogs.
What I find it interesting about that when I'm trying to picture like a boxer with a pointier nose and stuff like that, that just looks like a Vizsla or like a Weimaraner. If you think about it, like if you have except with the exception of the pointy ears. If it
Yeah,
had
I
like a
don't think
longer
it's
snoot.
quite well. It's longer than it is now, but it's not long.
Oh, okay. So like
Yeah.
it's just a bit more now. It's like again, like smushed in like this. I wonder if they talk like this. I wonder. Woof, 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 woof. But the smush face is like a huge deal, and I've mentioned a couple of times like when we found this growth in Becky's mouth, and
Hmm.
it's called an epulus, but they're not sure because it could potentially be a cancerous growth as well. So as long as it's not bothering her, we're not doing anything about it, because if it's cancerous, I've mentioned this a few times. The treatment is to remove the lower half of her jaw, like upon which it sits, which we are not going to do to our poor precious Becky. So we're
Hmm.
letting her sort of like ride this one out until it starts to hinder her, like her eating or her health in any sort of way. And so far, it hasn't. Touch wood. But when I remember reading up on it, and when you said about the extra flesh and stuff in the mouth, this they said was very prominent in boxers,
Oh,
and those type of those like jowly sort of like dogs, where
okay.
I'm sure it maybe that's like part of it. Maybe that's what part of what makes them prone is the smush fish, the
Could
smush
be.
fish, the smush fish, and all the tissue not having anywhere to go. So maybe it. Who knows?
Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe. This one is the one that I was surprised
Hmm.
about. The poodle.
Oh yes, me
Yes.
too. Me too.
We're gonna
Because
have to
they're
share the link to this video because
oh
you guys
big
need to
time.
see this poodle.
Yes, I know. Yes, that was
so
surprising.
so at first it sounds like they're describing a Labrador retriever.
Hmm.
So poodles were considered a water retriever
Hmm.
for water birds, such as ducks, for hunters. Doesn't
Yes.
that sound
Yep.
like a lab?
Hmm.
Because they had a water resistant coat.
That's the
What?
crazy part. I know.
Yeah,
What was that breed that we found that looks
like
like
a
it has
mop.
dreads? Yes, that looks like a mop, or that it
Oh,
has
there's a
dreads.
couple of them. There's a Poolie, the Commodore,
Yep.
Commodore,
And then
and
there's
then
like
there's the
Portuguese water dog.
Bergamasco, something like that.
Bergamosco. If that's not a dog, let's breed one and call it the Bergamasco.
The Bergamasco.
Oh, no, you're right. The Bergamasco Shepherd sheepdog. Yes, you are correct. Vero.
It looks like that, except with the poodle face.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
their coats was long and stranded. They looked like braids.
Hmm.
And now the shape and the texture of the fur is changed. So now it's like soft and curly. And a lot of poodles have skin disease. So that's very common in poodles. It's called sebaceous adenitis.
Yes, I saw
So
that.
loss of fur, scaly patches, lots of scratching. They don't look at all like they look like on the picture.
No, they really don't. And when you think of a poodle, it's like in the top three of most intelligent dogs. And they're always like, when you think, I would imagine that almost if we polled like 150 people and said, draw a poodle, it would look like, the big poofy balls like on the ends of the feet and the tails and the head and
Yes.
the right. Like everybody has like this classic like vision of what a poodle looks like in
Yeah.
their head. And yeah, you're right. It was quite surprising because like, yeah, it looked more like these other dogs with like the massive dreads and stuff like that. So to hear that their coat changed over time. And I thought that poodles, it was hair, not fur. And that's why people get them because they're
Oh
hypoallergenic.
yeah, it is hair.
But I didn't know about all
My bad.
their skin issues.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
That's
Because they're
crazy.
often shaved. Like parts of their bodies
Yeah.
are shaved, right? So, and you
Well,
don't see
into their poodle
like
poofs.
poodle poofs.
Poodle poofs. Oh my god, we should make like a hair grooming like mold called poodle poofs.
Can I get a poodle and call it Poof?
Yeah, I would. I'd call it Viva Poofs. Those are like those those cookies, those marshmallow cookies.
Viva Poofs.
Viva Poofs. Oh my goodness. I don't know that I would want a poodle either, but
No, I
are
don't know.
do doodles have the hair, right? Rather than the fur. That's why they were chosen to crossbreed
Yeah.
with okay.
Yes.
Hypoallergenic dogs
Yes.
with scaly skin issues.
Scaly skin and
Snake
loss.
dogs.
Snake dogs. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next breed,
Mm-hmm.
the German Shepherd.
The G Shep? What did they
The
do to the G Shep? What did they do to the G
Well, you can
Shep?
see now. Like I've always wondered why their legs, why they always had like that slope, like their back is always sloped. So
Yes.
initially, the G Shep was a medium-sized dog with strong legs,
Mm-hmm.
a deep chest. He must have had a big biscuit.
A D Shep? A D Shep G
A
Shep?
D Shep. And a straight back.
Mm-hmm. It's true. They are very slopey. So what does the slope do to them? Messes up their back? They got bad backs?
Sloping back can result in hip dysplasia.
Ah, yes.
And they're much heavier than they used to be.
Mm.
Like, yeah. They used to be able to jump. Like, they were athletic. They would herd and guard sheep. And now they're more... Like, some of them still are, but not, I don't think, to the full extent to
I'm gonna
what they were before.
When I see like security dogs and stuff like that, I'm gonna look at the backs to see if like they're bred to like the old school standards rather than the newer ones.
Yeah.
Or if it's hard to like, I wonder if it's like this, like these are long gone, like images like of these dogs from overtime, like long-term breeding.
And people probably don't even know.
Well, I didn't know about most of them. That's crazy.
Yeah. There's an old German Shepherd on my street, and I see him walking sometimes, and it just looks painful.
Oh,
like his back legs.
Oh, that makes
I'm
me
like,
sad.
oh. I feel like he needs a little wheelchair.
I wonder if it's just like because of the slope back, it's adding more weight back there. So again, it's going to give them like hip issues because there's like when you think about the physics involved with it,
with
it's
to
more
walk
wear and tear. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I
well,
wonder
imagine if you had to walk with your like tailbone like tucked in.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that would cause some issues.
Poor G Sheps.
Let's do that tomorrow. See what happens.
Yeah.
All right. Our next one is Basset Hound. They had smaller ears and a less droopy face. So now they have really long ears, a lot of skin folds that can cause dermatitis, eye problems. And again, because of like they're shorter now and they have a long body, again, spinal problems.
And I find them too, they have the feet that go out to that splay out to the sides as well. The front feet.
Just like the Dachshund.
The Dachshund. It almost looks like
I have a few left.
Okay, sorry.
I'm gonna try to get through these.
Okay.
Some of them I'm not quite sure if it has to do with like interbreeding or bad breeding, but
yes.
The bearded collie. I'm not sure if you know what that looks like,
I think so.
but it has like a really, really long coat, and it never had a big coat. And now they're a lot shorter and stockier than they used to be. And they said they're prone to skin allergies. So I'm not sure if any of like the evolution of this breed has caused skin allergies. Probably not, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it has to do with any. Oh, maybe, who knows? Anything genetic, but
Yeah.
um, the Saint Bernard. Mm.
What did they do?
So they used to rescue travelers in avalanches and snowstorms.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have a much bigger skull than they used to have, and they are much bigger than they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
The angle between their forehead and their nose, like the forehead is steeper,
Mm-hmm.
and again, their face is more pushed in,
Oh
and
man.
they have a longer fur. So again, overheating, and then they have entropion, so the eyelids roll inwards against the eyeball.
Oh yes.
I don't think they're the only breed that has that, but
No.
and then we have the white terrier, which is the Westie. They
Mm-hmm.
used to be athletic working dogs, and they've always been short and stocky. But now they have longer coats, and they're susceptible to like their kneecap
Oh yeah.
to like, how do you say that? Like to protrude?
Oh yeah.
Like they become like detached.
Oh okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I think they have a lot of skin issues too.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the Chow Chow, which used to be a medium dog with a slightly heavy coat. Now their coat is extremely dense, um, and
Mega
they
poof.
have what's that?
I said mega poof.
Mega poof, and they have excessive skin. So that leads to skin issues, and then their mega poof reduces peripheral vision. So you can sneak up on them.
we should get like we should get like Chow Chow rear view mirrors or side mirrors so they can see where they're going.
And a little blinker.
Yep. Oh my god, that's hilarious.
And then the last breed, the Salukis.
Salukis.
So this looks like Cleo Longlegs.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Kind of similar breed. They're a lean build. They're really fast. They might be the oldest breed ever. Like ever.
Mm-hmm.
There's mummified Salukis in ancient Egyptian tombs.
Oh wow.
They are susceptible to heart defects and eye problems. But again, I'm not sure if that's something that's developed over time or maybe they've always had that.
They do look like Cleo Longlegs.
Yeah.
They're like skinny, like it almost looks like an Afghan and like a whippet had a baby.
Yeah.
Like
It's
they've
just the ears.
yeah, the long hair in the ears, but then like the crazy slender like bodies, slender like long legs. Yeah. Huh. Saluki.
Saluki's the oldest breed ever.
The Kooky Saluki. Well, I found that an interesting little vid. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to look at the photos and just see the subtle differences, and it sort of like makes you. It's going to make me at least take a second look at some of these doogs that they talked about.
Yeah.
The Kooky Saluki. I don't see too many of those around, but
No. I'd like a Kooky Saluki.
yes, yes, you guys would look good together. You have to get a blonde one. You guys could be leggy blondes together.
Yes.
Although you and Ralph are going to be leggy blondes too.
Mm-hmm. I
Mhm.
feel like Ralph had a growth spurt overnight and
Oh
his legs
yeah.
are longer.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's
How does
so
that
cute.
happen?
It just does. You should have seen Gibbon. It was like so awkward. It's like different parts of him grew at different times. So it's like the nose would like come out and then the legs would grow and then the ears like looked way too big. And then like, oh, it was just hilarious. It was like growing different parts at different times, and it
Mm-hmm.
made him look like a cartoon animal in some instances.
And that's it for that video.
For
It was
that vid.
interesting.
So I was just gonna quickly just talk about manners. I was telling Vero before right before we started recording. I was hanging out with my mom the other day, and we were getting in the car and driving out of her neighborhood, and there was somebody walking two dogs on a leash. One was on a regular collar, and the other one was on a harness. And as we're slowly driving past him, the dog on the harness, you could tell, was like pulling his arm like out of his socket. And so he gave it like a quick, like abrupt, like tug back. And my mom saw this and she went, "Hey, that's not nice." And I was like, "Mom, zip it. Not your dog." I'm like, "First of all, he's on a harness, and that's this guy's choice for whatever reason. Clearly, he has a pulley dog and it
Mm-hmm.
decided to try the harness thinking, oh, that'll stop them, except it doesn't. And clearly not with this dog because he was struggling like walking his dog down the street. But all this to say, it started making me think of like my dog ownership in the past, and you're trying different things or you're training in different ways and you're doing different stuff, and if you're doing it in a public forum, that you'll often get people wanting to put their 2 cents in, and not necessarily in a super helpful way. So I just wanted to touch briefly on on dog owner manners. So I can remember once with Scrappy taking him to a local place, and we were testing him out being off leash and trying to work on the recall, and he would always end up following another dog, and we'd end up following like random strangers being like, "Scrappy, Scrappy," until they would eventually stop, wait for us to catch up, and then get him back with us and put him on leash. And I can remember one time when we were like working on this, and again, this was in the past when I knew like nothing about dog training. um but these we caught up to these people, like we were following these people for like 10 minutes, and I was like, okay, finally they stopped, and then he came over and I was like, "Good boy," and like gave him the treat, and she was like, "I wouldn't be giving my dog a treat if I were you." And she was like so like judgy, and I was like, "Okay, thank you, have a nice evening." Just like walked away. It's like super like awkward. But and again, like I've mentioned it several times, especially when you're like working with your dog, when you guys are like having a training sesh, whether it be leash work and stuff like that, there's always people wanting to come and touch or manhandle your dog, and it's okay to say no. It is okay to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And especially people with kids, it's like almost like, I think dog ownership was such an open and like not super highly regarded thing. Like everybody's heard how far the industry has come, like especially in recent years, and there's a lot more knowledge about it, and there's even articles out there saying that people are getting dogs instead of having kids, and it's like become this like massively like rapidly growing industry. And I don't think we knew as much in the past, and I can remember just walking up and petting any strange
Mm-hmm.
dog and stuff
Yeah.
like that, because that's the innocent reflexes of a child. But it's okay to say no, because you have to protect the dog, and that builds your relationship with them and their trust, that you're not going to let anybody come up and start touching their face or grabbing their paws or grabbing their ears and that kind of stuff when it's somebody that they're not familiar with. So um if I think most of us, and if you're listening to this show, you probably have some sort of interest in dogs, and like I'm sure that I don't need to be telling anyone who's listening to have polite manners. But also, like, if somebody's being like aggressive towards you or whatever, just like, you just got to walk away or call it quits and realize you're not going to change anybody's mind if they're feeling particularly strong about one thing or another. But if you notice somebody, like, unless it's like overt harm to an animal, um I would just maybe keep my 2 cents to myself, especially if
Yeah.
you notice stuff going on, because you don't know what they've tried. You don't know the dog. You don't know what they've tried, what they haven't. You don't know what kind of equipment they're using or what kind of exercises they've done already, and they're just trying to figure it out. So, unless you're super helpful. Like I saw people at a park once who were having their arms pulled off by their dog, and I was just like, "Oh, if you're ever curious about like leash work, whatever, like, I work quite a bit with dogs, and I'd be happy to help, or I live right over
Mm-hmm.
there." Like, it was people in the neighborhood, and they never took me up on it, but they had a young kid, so I'm sure they're busy people. But
Yeah.
but anyways, I just wanted to have a quick little discuss
Yes.
about dog manners. and owner manners.
Mm-hmm.
Ne juge pas.
Ne
And
juge pas.
and protect your dog. It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yes. We've talked about this a little bit about how you're like, you're walking down the street and you're trying to train your dog,
Mm-hmm.
and people keep approaching you wanting to like pet your dog, and
Mm-hmm.
it just throws the dog off, and it's kind of,
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
frustrating because you're trying to make some progress and it's really difficult.
Big time. And it is really difficult. And sometimes people feel awkward because like when you're walking in the neighborhood, it's like a social sort of event, and especially when you're running into neighbors and you want to be neighborly and you want to be
Yes.
friendly, but at the same time it's just um that's why some people use these patches that say like in training or working dog, like right now, like, or please do not
Yes.
disturb, and these type of things, because hopefully people can read it and be like, oh, okay, like they're working. And whether they think you're just walking your dog and don't understand that it's leash work, which I'm sure a lot of kids would think, at least they have that visual cue to be like, oh, okay, we clearly can't come and squeal in their face and pull on their ears.
No. There's these girls, I call them like the Ralph fan club. They're
Hmm.
all younger girls. And every time they see Ralph, they're like, Ralph! And Ralph just loves them.
Yeah.
He gets like belly rubs and just, you should see him. He looks like a little worm sometimes, like going from like person to person. And, anyways, so I'm walking Ralph, and they know because I've told them, I'm like, if Ralph has his vest on that has in training, it's because I'm trying to walk him, and I
Yeah.
want him to ignore
Yes.
everything.
Yeah.
But, but they still go like, oh, Ralph, oh, in training, oh, Ralph. And I'm like, no, that doesn't work. But I'm like, oh, okay, they're gonna be the exception.
Well, yeah, exactly, right? Like, I know
Yeah,
it's hard, and you got to like make it work, right? And depending,
yeah,
on the age of people and stuff like that involved, it's like so hard not to give in because we love them so much too.
yes.
We
And
get
you
to,
want them to socialize,
well,
like
exactly,
meet
yeah.
different people.
Mhm.
There's also these three dogs on the corner: Layla,
Mhm.
Talisker,
Mhm.
and Cordero.
Mhm.
So there's a chocolate lab, that's Layla. Talisker is a black lab, and Cordero is a mix, maybe border collie, German Shepherd. He's
Mhm.
older,
Mhm.
but they're also like the exception to the
Yeah.
in training in training
Yes.
thing
Yeah.
because they're just friends.
Yep.
Ralph had like a little play date with them. I call Layla his
And
girlfriend.
and we had a play date. We forgot to tell
We
everybody.
did.
We had a play date.
Ralph and
Finally.
Gibbon met.
And Gibbon like road runnered him like that made me feel bad. We
That's
went across
okay.
the street to the park and this big open field, and I let Gibbon off, and he like does that. He's sort of in his like automatic like routine, sort of like goes and runs the field and comes back, and there's backyards of like other properties, and there's this one huge Rottweiler. So he always runs up. He sees his friend, the Rottweiler. He stands there for a little bit, and then he runs the rest of the field. So when he was running back, because we were Ralph, we were like, look at Ralph, like, look, there's a puppy here, like, for crying out loud, Gibbs. And he came like running at like top speed, like top Weimaraner speed. And
Boom.
I thought he was gonna slow down, and he literally just ran Ralph over completely. We were like, oh, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. But those puppies, they bounce back. Their bones
Yes.
are bones are made of sponge, thank God.
Oh, Gibbon.
Yeah.
I like his run.
Yes. His
We
his
attempted to get them to boop Snoots. We'll have
yes.
to try again. I have
Snoot
to
to
post all
snoot.
their boop Snoots fail.
Yes. We will get that boop snoot photo. Snoot to snoot.
Yes.
Boop to boop.
Boop to
Snoot to
boop,
snoot.
Snoots to snoot.
All right, I want to hear about this old doggy of yours.
Yes. How
Okay.
old do you think this doggy was?
22.
Older.
What?
Yes.
25?
Older.
No. How?
Yes.
How?
Exactly.
28?
Older.
In the 20s? Is he in the 20s? Is he 29?
Well, so they think she was 30
Okay. Holy
because
smokes.
they lost the papers when she was a puppy, but then they had a son that was 4 when they got her, and then
Mm-hmm.
the dog passed away
Yeah.
when their son was 30. So they
Okay.
figured she's like late
Late
29s
twenties. Yeah.
or or 30 some.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Holy smokes.
Yes. So I watched an interview with the owner, it's Brian McLeran, and it was hosted by Rodney Habib. I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
guys know Rodney Habib, but you guys should look him up. He's a big advocate for pets. I only
Does he
learned this like
does he
yesterday.
well he like I've heard of the name before because he's like partnered up with Karen Becker a lot and
Yes,
other
they
people
wrote a
too.
book
It's
together.
yes, and it's like there's a lot of nutrition like does he speak heavily to like nutrition stuff and cancer
Mm-hmm.
and cancer or is it like a little bit of both?
I
They're
think
kind
he
of
did
both
the
related.
dog cancer series,
Yes, he did
like
with Karen Becker.
documentary.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. Yeah.
So Maggie, the Victorian Kelpie, she
Mhm.
lived. So she passed away in 2016.
Mhm.
Believe she was 30.
Mhm.
She lived in Australia.
Mhm.
So Rodney interviewed Brian and, asked him kind of like questions like what was her lifestyle? What did she do? So Brian lived on a farm
Mhm.
with sheep and I believe cows. And Maggie was always like, no stress. So maybe so they talk about how that might have contributed to her lengthy life,
Mhm.
how stress usually contributes to cancer.
Yeah.
And then her exercise.
Mhm.
So she ran like 20 kilometers a day
Holy smokes.
because he would get on his like four-wheeler, but she
Yeah.
would run most of the time.
Yeah. You think that would be
Bah.
like I wonder at what age she started to feel like the wear and tear on her joints.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then
What about the food? They had to have talked about
I
food.
know that was like the $1 million question.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
first, he mentioned that she only got spayed when she was about 12 years old.
What?
So
Why?
she had, because he lived on a farm,
Oh
I
yeah, yeah.
guess, in the middle of nowhere. So he didn't
So did
think
she have
that
puppies?
she had puppies that year when
What?
she was 12. And Brian was like, hell no, like not ever again. So
Yeah.
he got her spayed when she was 12.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
It's funny to think that like, oh, she lived for another like 18 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then talking about stress, how Rottweilers are are often affected by cancer.
Mhm.
And there was some research that Rodney was kind of talking about how they looked at the Rottweilers that lived the longest, and
Mhm.
they were the ones that lived a less stressed life.
Describe a stressful life for a dog. Did he talk about that at all?
No,
Like, I wonder what they mean by stress. Like, is it city living, like more all of the socialization that we're talking about that
could
sort of
be,
stresses them out and that kind of thing? Or I
could
wonder if
be.
it could even be like, I wonder if a working dog, if that qualifies as stress. Define a stressful life for a dog. Because I care.
But I guess she was like a working dog.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah,
So
so
I wonder if it's like when they have like a very clear job that they're supposed to do and they just like are free to do it with
could
like
be.
none of this like yes or no and like look if she was still having babies at the age of 12 there was clearly they weren't keeping tabs on old Bessie.
Yeah,
What
it's
was her name?
probably the
Maggie?
lifestyle.
Yeah.
Maggie, yeah.
Maggie. Oh my god, so cute.
And I mean, she was always around her owner.
Yeah.
She was an outdoor dog,
Yep.
and she slept in this basket
But
outside.
so did they address food at all or no?
Yes,
So
they
what did she
did.
eat?
So she ate scraps.
Mhm.
She ate some minced sheep.
Okay.
A lot of raw food, butcher's bones, and she ate the afterbirth
Gross.
of
But
cows.
yeah. Oh, of
Yeah.
cows. Oh, okay.
Apparently she that was delicious. And dead calves. Calves?
we
Cows.
calf.
Calves? Your legs? And then fresh milk twice a day. So half a cup twice a day. And that was
So
the one
that's
thing
in
that she
yes.
would be in the morning,
Yep.
she would be looking for that.
And like straight from the cow's teat, or like would they like go milk the cow and give it to her, because
Milk
that
the
would
cow and give it to
yeah.
her.
See, and that's like crazy because that would be full of like all kinds of like
Mm-hmm.
probiotic and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Interesting. That's very
Yes.
interesting.
And she ate vegetables, like the
Hmm.
scraps from the
Yeah,
table.
that's very
And that's
interesting.
pretty much it.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
so funny when you talk about them eating the afterbirth of cows. It's like we love them so much, but they're so disgusting
Yeah.
sometimes.
Blah. Blah, blah,
Bleh.
blah.
Well,
The advice that Brian gave,
hmm
because Rodney asked him if you could give one piece of advice, what would it be? To not overfeed your dog. And there's a lot of
um,
research on that saying that dogs that are overfed die younger.
see, I'm in that dilemma right now. I've gone on and on and on about it on our show, but
Mm-hmm.
anyways, like it's like I can't find a good balance for Gibbs right now. I can't. It's either overfeeding him and like
Diarrhea.
he's in yeah, he's in a really good place now. But when they talk about overfeeding, I'm sure you're thinking of like these super fat dogs that are clearly overfed and like super crappy food, and then the diabetes sets in, and then like you're in a whole world of like health problems.
Yeah.
Whereas with Gibbs, it's like a sensitive system or something like that, or it's got to be his pancreas. So when you're left to like decide, because like dogs obviously can't tell you what their specific symptoms are. They can't be like, you know, I'm feeling good in the morning, but then my tummy starts to hurt after you feed me my fourth cup of food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're left to like guess all the time or spend a ton of money to investigate, which a lot of people are, depending on their situations, are either willing or not willing to do. But anyways, I find that very interesting. So because I have been told that I'm potentially overfeeding my dog, but when you look at him, he literally like looks like a Skeletor.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So I need to find that balance where it's like he's getting like what he needs, but at the same time has the caloric like intake that he should have because he's too skinny.
Maybe
He's
try some raw milk. They do
oh,
sell it. I
they
don't know.
they sell raw milk.
Yeah, I think raw goat milk at
Oh,
Ren's Pet.
oh my goodness, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of research on fasting your
Yep.
dog.
Mm-hmm.
So Brian was saying how the last 6 months of Maggie's life, that's when they really became best friends.
Oh,
And she passed away overnight in her basket.
oh,
He
that's
went
so
to see
cute.
her in the evening
Mm-hmm.
before,
Mm-hmm.
and he said she didn't seem
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
and then she passed away overnight at
She
30 years old.
she truly lived the dream.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Maggie.
Mm-hmm. And I think she was pretty healthy until the last little bit,
Yeah.
last couple of months or something like that.
Aw, so
I
sweet.
know.
So sweet. Well, is
That's
that
it.
it?
That's all.
That's it. That's all. Is that
That's
a
it.
wrap?
That's all. It's a
Well,
wrap.
thank you for joining us on Let's Boop Snoots. Please tune
Join us
in.
next week.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Boop.